Okay, so this is a talk about my white privilege and autism. So white privilege means that regardless of other struggles I've had in my life, some of which are due to being working class, autistic, queer, I've not been disadvantaged systemically and interpersonally as a result of my skin color. This is a privilege. Just as neurotypicals experience privilege navigating a system designed for their neurotype, white individuals experience white privilege. So this presentation is just a short talk on how my whiteness has shaped my experience of being autistic. I compare my experience with statistics and accounts coming from BIPOC, particularly Black autistics in the UK and USA. And I argue that being white shields white autistics like me from certain aspects of institutional and interpersonal violence, while limiting our understanding of what autism is and how it manifests. So mostly white autistics, I conclude, really need to do better in centering and uplifting the voices of autistics of colour. In diagnosis, I received better treatment in medical situations because the medical community has a racism problem. Some US stats from 2016 showed that Black patients were 22% less likely than white patients to receive any pain medication. 40% of first and second year med students endorsed myths such as the idea that Black people's skin is thicker than white people. I've got citations for that and other bits at the bottom of this document, which I'll share. So for Black autistic patients who already experience atypical pain and medication responses potentially, this experience of mistreatment is compounded and affects whether a diagnosis can be obtained. The NAS's 2014 report indicates that it's harder for BIPOC individuals to receive a diagnosis, and the lack of support received following diagnosis is more pronounced for these groups. Diagnostic criteria is based on studies and observations of majority white individuals. So during my assessment, my experiences were compared against the criteria based on people like me from my cultural background. And while assessors' understanding of autism has recently expanded beyond stereotypes of male brain autism, which has helped me with my diagnosis, the same understanding hasn't been afforded across cultures. So the diverse perspectives report I mentioned earlier also pointed to the fact that there's a poor understanding of how autism manifests in BAME communities and how it's shaped in relation to different cultures. This then really affects safety. Autistic people are facing an increased risk of police violence, and Black people face an increased risk too. If I have a meltdown in public, I'm scared about embarrassing myself and I'm terrified about how I might get home. A fear of detention doesn't cross my mind. I know that I'm considered less of a threat of violence and white people are less likely to be forcibly detained, and this is white privilege. Autistic people are also more at risk than other disabilities for hate crime. Coupled with the existing risk of racial hate crime, BIPOC and especially Black autistics experience risks to their safety which I do not. This is also white privilege. In terms of my life options, when I was in trouble at school for taking drugs, misbehaviour, being off the rails, I was given counselling. I was allowed to stay in school. I was told off, but I was allowed to stay. Joshua, whose story is told in my further reading section, was kicked out after drug offences. Black students in general are 3.5 times more likely to be suspended than white students in the UK. One school for excluded children, in further reading, has 7 out of 9 pupils who are neurodiverse. So this so-called school to prison pipeline where young Black people are punished, unsupported and bounced around different services till imprisonment doubly affects Black autistic people. And these stereotypes of being aggressive and non-compliant are compounded by virtue of being Black and autistic. So these are just a few of the ways in which my life as an autistic person has been easier due to my white skin. I know many of us at Autscape benefit from white privilege, and as a community, we need to own these facts and be proactive about including BIPOC, in particular Black individuals, in our spaces. I and other white people need to work to make sure these spaces are financially accessible, pay BIPOC seekers, make space for BIPOC caucuses, and work on understanding and being open about how whiteness has informed our experiences of diagnosis and our acceptance as autistic people. Thank you.